my website. As of right now, it says I'm not live. I'm not sure why I'm not live on my website.
Getting anything live on my website.
Oh, there it is. It is live.
Right now, it says I'm
Hold
not
on.
live.
Something
I'm
I've
not
hit.
sure why I'm not live on
Sorry
my
for
website.
why.
Getting anything live on my website.
Oh, there it is. It is live.
Right now,
Hold on, everybody.
Nice echo effect there, Alan.
Oh, I found the culprit. There. Now I just have to figure out if I'm live on the website. I've updated it here. Let's see. Yeah, it does look like. Oh, that's. Oh, just a sec, Eric. I think I'm just about live here. Some people are watching through that right now. That's my computer. Just give me a second here, Eric. I think I got it figured out.
Okay.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I got a roller, Eric. Sorry about that. It's just I'm trying to get in live, and when it's live, so we're ready to go. I'm going to start the show right now. Hello, everybody. It's Allan Laboucan here. Thank you for joining me today. I'm the founder of the Allan Reports and the host of this show. I've got an exciting show set up today. Eric Coffin of the Hard Rock Advisories on again. He's been a great guest in the past. Eric's been on the show talking to us about some of his picks in the past, which have turned out really good, and I'm hoping to squeeze him for a few more picks today. Eric, thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Alan.
And sorry about that little glitch earlier on with my technology, but we're live now and we're rolling, so it's all good. Eric, what I'll do is I'll start with my website sponsor messages, and then we'll get rolling and start talking about some stocks and the market and stuff. How's that?
Okay.
All right, perfect. Excuse me. First of all, if a place that Eric and I spend a lot of time on is ceo.ca. I invite everybody to go to ceo.ca. You can find me at Allan, Allan. You want to talk about the markets, that's a good place to find us. Eric is also on there, an HRA advisor. So keep an eye out for him. On the website sponsors, I have Nevada Exploration. NGE is their symbol on the Venture Exchange. Got you back there, Eric. I had dropped Eric for a second, folks. Sorry about that. Nevada Exploration is focused on gold in Nevada. They're using a unique gold exploration method to test for underexplored areas in Nevada. You can check them out at nevadaexploration.com. Another sponsor is Premier Gold Mines. Their symbol's PG on the Toronto Exchange. They're also gold focused. They have an enviable portfolio of projects from exploration through to mining in places like Red Lake, Ontario. They're in Nevada. They're also in Mexico recently. You can visit them at premiergoldmines.com to do your homework. Another sponsor is Sirius Resources, SOI on the Venture Exchange. This is one that both Eric and I cover, so I'm hoping to get a couple words of update from Eric on the company as well. They're gold focused. They're drilling high grade targets in Quebec, on the Chichu project in Quebec. It's located next door to Eleanor's, the big Eleanor mine that Goldcorp has. Visit their website at sirios.com to do your homework on them. Another sponsor is Tarku Resources, tku.v. They're a grassroots gold explorer in Quebec. They're near a mine and a road being built to open up the area for the Stornoway diamond mine that's going up there to be Quebec's first diamond mine. You can visit them at Tarku Resources. That's TARKU resources.com to do your homework. My newest sponsor is Tudor Gold. Tudor Gold symbol is TUD. They trade on the Venture Exchange. They're a gold exploration company with a very strong portfolio of projects right in the heart of the Golden Triangle of British Columbia. This company was founded by Walter Storm, who also founded Osisko. So Walter has quite a reputation and building a new company here in Tudor. Check them out at Tudor Gold. That's TUDOR-GOLD.com. West Red Lake Gold Mines is another sponsor. This is another one that Eric also follows. Their symbol is RLG. They're a gold-focused company. They're drilling their high-grade gold project that's targeting the Hinge Zone in Red Lake, Ontario. Goldcorp is their 40% partner on that project, with West Red Lake Gold holding the remaining 60%. You can visit them at westredlakegold.com. And Wolfden Resources is my final sponsor. WLF is their symbol. They trade on the Venture Exchange. They're a base metals focused company with a discovery of high-grade nickel and copper near Snow Lake, Manitoba. You can visit them at wolfdenresources.com. That's WLFDEN resources.com. So, Eric, now that I got all my sponsor messages out of the way, the new one that has come on since the last time I spoke with you was Tudor Gold. I'm curious as to if you follow that and what else you might be following in the Golden Triangle, Eric.
Really, the only company I'm following up there at the moment is Colorado, where, like everybody else, I'm just waiting for more drill holes. I mean, Tudor's obviously got a strong management group, but I mean, with the valuation they've got, I'm happy to wait for drill holes at this point.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I don't think I want to get in front of it at this point.
I've heard that, and then I also look at it, Eric, and a big chunk of that company is owned by Walter Storm, so the actual, let's say, valuation relative to the real float out there is probably still pretty relatively inexpensive. But I'd invite you to do a little bit of homework on that one, Eric. When they came to me to talk about becoming a sponsor, I really rolled up my sleeves and did my homework on the strategic location of their key projects and along some important geological structures there that are host to impressive discoveries, and they are well placed. So it's one that I think could turn out to be one of the key exploration successes coming out of the Golden Triangle this summer. So I'm inviting you to check out my new sponsor there, Tudor Gold.
Okay.
Alrighty. And I'm coming to your show, so I'll have to twist your arm and make sure you check them out a little bit more there, Eric. Of my other sponsors, there's a couple there that you've followed. Do you have any comments on those, Eric?
Well, I mean, I think in the case of all of them, really, we all know that the sort of the modus operandi, the usual way that the Venture Exchange works is a lot of the old school guys wait until after Labor Day to put out results. I think the plan's being kiboshed a little bit by what's going on in the major markets. I don't doubt there's guys with assays coming in that are watching the Dow and the S&P drop 2 or 3% a day and going, maybe I want to wait a few days to put these out. That's got a lot of people concerned. I mean, I'm not reading much into assay delays personally. I mean, I'm totally fine if management groups and companies I follow have the common sense not to put out drill results on a horrible market day. I don't think that does anybody any good. But I think you're seeing in the case, and I'm leading into Sirius with this comment because I think that's part of the trading you're seeing in that one is I think people are getting paranoid because they haven't seen drill results yet. And I am, I suppose, a proponent of the somewhat cynical view that the longer you wait for drill holes, the more you should worry about what those holes are going to contain. Although in the case of that one, I know the way that they drill and the way they handle core they've got a pretty long timeline from the time the stuff comes out of the core barrel to the time they get assays back. So I wasn't really expecting much sooner than this, but I just think with the markets being skittish, you're seeing people, freaking out a little bit. Plus, let's be honest, the thing went from 20 cents to $1.30. So lots of people were in a position to take their money off the table, which I think both of us have already suggested people do anyway.
Yeah, not just with sponsors or picks of mine and yours, but yeah, I mean, I actually, you kind of bring up some stuff there about seasonality, so maybe we should talk a little bit about that, Eric. I had, followed my own advice that you and I give people on previous shows, and I kind of shook things up with my own series of picks. And it was in July, around mid-July, July 10th, I think. And I'm really glad that I did. I was able to lock in some really good gains for my pick roster there, and then I've been able to start going out there and hunting for new ones. And in fact, some of my new ones, I picked one from our last show that really stood out to me was your GMV there. But I do want to talk to you about GMV in a bit, Eric, but I was also wanting to get a little more into that seasonality. A lot of people were going away in May and trepidatious about going away in May, and this bull market seems to be, scaring them out of those seasonal kind of plays.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that, and I do think that there's, I think the markets are going to be skittish. September's got a reputation, and it's well earned because it's based on statistics, not just on opinion. That it tends to be the worst month for the major markets. There's sort of increasing concern with the way that bond yields are moving. That bond traders, at least, have decided, maybe the Fed isn't actually kidding this time. I don't expect a rate increase, but I don't think it's zero. I mean, I know all of the gold bugs you and I know will tell you there's zero chance. It's considerably higher than zero. I don't think it's higher than 50, but I think it's definitely higher than zero. That I think it would be stupid of them to do it, but it's pretty clear there's a lot of hawks on that panel that really want to do it. I'm hoping that the market is telling them right now that it's a really bad idea. They do tend to follow the market, so. I think it is a bad idea.
I think they pretty much got that message last time, didn't they, Eric? In December when they played that.
Yeah, the market didn't take it very well. I mean,
a quarter-point move after an unprecedented period of extremely low. Yeah, they didn't take that little move very well, which is kind of comical in itself, which kind of brings me to the whole, how ludicrous it is that people spend so much time watching what the Fed's going to do. What can they do maximum? Half a point? Who cares?
At the end of the day, I think you'd probably see, I think the gold market, and for that matter, even the stock market's pricing that in right now. So if they do it, I don't think the immediate impact's going to be that large. If they don't see it do it, which is the more likely outcome still, you're probably going to get a pretty good bounce on both sides. Because you're right, at the end of the day, 25 basis points doesn't mean very much. Because I don't think there's much chance of them doing
not when you're coming from a zero base.
Well, I see a lot of things out there in the U.S. economic metrics that I'm not that comfortable with. So, you keep hearing these speeches by FOMC hawks talking about how, the economy is doing really well and things are accelerating and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know what they're looking at.
Eric, didn't you read I just read the magic little number came out. Apparently, wages are up 5.2% magically.
Yeah.
Some of these numbers get revised quite significantly, I think.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem to match very well to what's actually going on in the real world. I think one number that's probably going to be pretty, I think will probably have a big influence on Yellen, certainly, and probably most of the doves is we'll get the consumer spending number for last month on Thursday, and I don't think the market's expectations are high. They're expecting like 0.2% or something increase, but if that's a bad number, I think that pretty much takes a rate increase off the table. So I think Thursday is going to be one of those good news is bad news and bad news is good news kind of days. If it's a lousy consumer spending number, you'll probably see a pretty big bounce.
And what does that do? What do you think that does with currency in the and the gold market?
You would see the gold. You should see you should see the gold market bounce, and you should see the U.S. dollar come off. Because I think you'd see the bond traders back off. If consumer spending is something I think they take pretty seriously, so
well,
if they saw a lousy consumer spending number, I think you'd see the bond traders reverse, and that would pretty quickly you'd have the algo guys in there driving the S&P up and probably driving the gold price up too.
Well, it could get pretty interesting there, Eric, because I've been seeing some patterns in the trading. I follow the trends pretty closely, and I'm seeing some patterns in the way that they've been since about the mid part of August. Some pretty significant shorts have been going in there, and I think that they're about to get squeezed, and that probably could be the fundamental thing that starts that squeezing.
It may be, because it's been interesting to see very large sales in the futures market several times in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And what surprised me was how little impact they actually had on the price. I mean, they were very large.
Exactly. They're wailing on it, and it's standing there like a champ. And you got it
on the wrong side of the market. I'm not sure who, but
well, I mean, Eric, I don't just look at the trends, I also look at the fundamentals. And, we just came through the second highest first half of a year in gold demand ever. And yet you look at the miners, they're having struggle. Look at Eric, when we got in the business in the 90s, could you imagine people, what they'd look at us if we brought 1 gram projects around? Now that's a good project is 1 gram. You look at the development pipeline. It's weak. You look at the head grades in the mines. It's weak. The whole supply chain of gold is weak, and yet the demand is strong. Sooner or later, these paper boys are going to pay the price, I think.
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of bull market ahead of us. I'm not really that concerned about it. I mean, I've noticed in a lot of conversations I have with retail guys that whenever you get a pullback like this, you get all kinds of people that freak out, and everybody tries to be the perfect trade and catch the bottom, catch the top, catch the bottom of every zig and zag, and you gotta try to as nice as it is in theory to be able to do that, I think it's more important to try to find the right deals early in a bull market and
it's all about valuation.
You should be riding.
It's all about valuation to me, Eric. I could really care. People say to me in the past, well, others have picked this stock before you or whatever. I don't really care. It's about valuation to me. If I can get in there at a reasonable valuation and that's what I do and I ride it out, that's what I'm in this business for. I don't have to be the guy who always is the first guy in. You know why, Eric? Because I've been the first guy in enough times in my career, and so have you.
Right.
And sometimes that's a lonely job being the first guy in, anyways.
I know.
Speaking of first guys in, well, I certainly wasn't the first guy in to pick your GMV that we talked about the last time you were on the show, Eric.
I got lots of company now. But.
Yeah, exactly, including myself. Yeah, and what I think we can harken back to that conversation. What caught my attention when we were talking was the geophysics, the targets that they had, some sampling that they had done, and so that one's been turned out pretty good for to be introed on the show. It did very well right after that, and I've got it as a pick now. Eric, any updates on that one?
Well, they've closed their financing now, so they've got probably $4 million to play with now, I guess. I know the permitting is in for the drilling. They're expecting that like any day now. I think they're organizing the drill program so that the RC drill should get there the end of the month, basically. I think before the drilling starts, Dave Webb told me that he's got a couple of guys going down there, and they're getting a crew organized to set up a soil grid around, not on Mexican Hat, but around Mexican Hat in the flats, which is something I really wanted to see, and I think you did too. They're also getting the guys, I think it's the guys from Zong, which is a big geophysical outfit that happens to be based in Tucson, which is like an hour drive away. I think the Zong guys are going to come out with, and I'm not even sure what they're bringing with them. I think they're going to bring 2 or 3 different systems with them. They've got the advantage of having outcropping mineralization on the hillside, and I think what they're going to do is just run a couple of lines of 2 or 3 different systems and basically see what sees it, if you will.
Yeah.
And if they've got a system that they think is seeing it well, then they'll just expand that out into the flats and see if they can pick up some coincident geophysical, geochem anomalies. They've talked to, like, I know one friend of mine, a geo, who I know had some extended conversations with him because he actually worked on a couple of projects not too far south of them.
Okay.
And he gave them some suggestions in terms of what didn't work for him in terms of the geochem stuff. So I really like those magnetic lineaments, same as you do, because they're clearly on echelon faults in the same fault system that seems to be the plumbing system for the gold resource that we know about. And as far as I can see, no one's ever really spent any time looking off the hillside itself. And I think there's a lot of room there for new targets. So I'm really glad to hear they're doing that.
Yeah, well, it sure stood out to me, Eric, right away. It was I haven't had a chance to speak with the geo yet, but I mean to do that because I'd really like to pick his brain as to what his feelings are on those targets outside of Mexican Hat.
I think he really likes. I think he really likes the concept. He just wants to find something that allows him to discriminate between. That basically allows him to narrow it down. I mean,
so he'll go to those faults and structures and try to do some sampling around there, so he has something to hang his hat on.
Yeah, I think he's just gonna. I don't know if he's picked the spacing yet, but I think he's just gonna do a geochem grid that, pretty much covers that whole part of the property. And once the Zong guys have picked the system, probably do the same thing with the geophysics. But he said, I've got these lineaments where, to me that's a target, but it's like, where on that 5 kilometers of lineament do I stick a drill hole? That's what I'm looking for, is some combination of geophysics and geochem that allow me to narrow things down a bit.
Now that is a really nice problem to have.
Well, and the other thing he'll be doing, there is a drill program that will be starting, I'm guessing like the first week of October, and that's going to be, that's holes that he's already laid out to fill some gaps and to try to just expand the known mineralization, mainly step out drilling around the zones. Most of the zones are still open along strike and down dip, so he's going to get, I think it's about 15 RC holes into those while he's doing this other stuff.
Mm-hmm. So they've got the cash, they're waiting for some permits that should be wrapped up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And there's lots, you can see lots in that mag anomaly for exploration around the Mexican Hat too, eh?
Yeah, and as far as he can tell, when he's talked to locals, the opinion of most of the locals is that the overburden, that's always the question in that part of the world. Some of these places, as you know, in Nevada and Arizona, you get into these valleys and you've got like 200 meters of loon shit sitting on top of the outcrop. But as far as they can tell, and most of the locals he's talked to are telling him, you'll probably find in most of that valley your outcrop's not actually that deep. Or your overburden's maybe 2 or 3 meters, which is no big deal. And
now, is that to the south? It looks almost directly south of Mexican Hat. Is that an area that potentially may not have too much overburden?
There's a smaller hill down there, but also even some of the big area in the flats, sort of to the west or to the east and the northeast, even out there, I mean, Dave told me that there's the Arroyo and stuff, and he said you don't see any outcrop in them, but he said you get down into those, and he said you're seeing pretty big cobbles that are uniform cobbles. Like you'll see like cobbles are just basically rounded rocks. Like there's sets of them where it's all the same rock type. So he's pretty comfortable those are local.
Mm-hmm.
So he's figuring this stuff isn't that deep. It's he's not actually seeing outcrop, but he thinks the outcrop probably isn't more than 2 or 3 meters down. So he's not too worried about being able to see it with soil geochemistry or geophysics. He figures it'll show.
Well, I sure see something of interest there to the south of the Mexican Hat Mountain itself. That looks pretty exciting.
Yeah, and there will be some holes down on that fault because they already know from putting in a few trenches when they went down there to do the bulk sample that they have extended the zone a bit with trenches, so they want to get. I'm not sure how many of the holes are going under that, but there's a handful of holes that are going down in that area. And that was the biggest sample they had before. So
will they try to drill on the other side of the fault too, to pick it up, or do they think that cuts it off?
They'll drill through it to see what's on the other side. I mean, Dave's also. I mean, he still kind of likes the idea of getting down into the sediments below all this stuff, just to see what he sees. I don't know whether he's going to do that this program or in a later program. When they designed all these programs, this was kind of when the market was still for shit, frankly.
Yeah.
And yours truly and a few of my friends hadn't come along, and they were just like, what can we do with the minimum amount of money? And most of my recent conversations with the company have been like, okay, you guys have got lots of cash now, like,
do it right.
Like, yeah, let it all hang out, guys.
Because the reason I'm poking at you there a little bit, Eric, is because it looks like there's just as big of a geophysical anomaly on the other side of the fault to the south as there is at the Mexican Hat itself.
There may be. I mean, it's not a very well understood system. I mean, I've talked to a couple of guys who worked there back in the day, and most of the guys that have like it, but everybody sort of made the same comment, which is that it's kind of a weird duck. Like, it doesn't really fit into any pigeonholes very easily. It's obviously structural, but figuring out which structures, figuring out before you put a drill hole in it, which structures will and won't carry gold, nobody's found that easy to do.
Right.
And that's sort of what Dave's going to try to do with these broader surveys is, can he find a combination of geophysics and geochemistry that'll keep him from wasting a ton of drill holes trying to chase one of these things?
Well, if they're not too covered up, they should be able to get some geochem samples in there, shouldn't they?
Well, on the hillside, yeah, but I mean, it's out in the flats, in areas where nobody's ever drilled before at all. I mean, that's one of the areas he's most interested in.
And if you follow that fault to the southeast, that's going out into the flats, right?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Plus there's also there's parallel faults to the east and the north and the northeast on the mag survey that are they're like a kilometer away. That like they don't intersect the hillside at all, but they seem to be part of the same set.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk to guys like Manny, the original prospector. Manny's owned these claims. He's the guy they ultimately bought the claims from. He's owned the core claims for, 50 years or something. Manny's a prospector, so like most prospectors, he's got his ideas, but there's a certain amount of common sense to what he says. Dave said I was out in the flats with Manny because I guess there's some state claims over there that they had to do some assessment work on. And, he said, you walk around and you see the soil color change from, brown, essentially. It starts getting quite red. And he said, obviously, that's the hematite coming up from faults. Mm-hmm. And, this is where Manny's pounding the table saying you got to put holes here. And no one's ever drilled there before. And Dave wants to put some holes over there. He just wants to get some soil geochem first. So
Makes
it's not,
sense.
So he's not chasing. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of faults there that have lots of hematite in them that give you nice red rusty soil but don't have any gold in them. I mean, he's trying not to drill those. He's trying to drill the ones that do have gold in them.
Sure.
The other thing that's coming too, of course, and it's probably around the same time, end of September, early October, they should have their column leach results back. And I think that's the plus 1.5 inch to 6 inch column. I mean, essentially run of mine stuff. And I'm very curious to see what that looks like, because that's a big part of the thesis for me, is that this thing's run of mine or potentially run of mine.
You can get enough out of it. And yeah, that's also what caught my attention too, Eric.
And that should be, I think that column should be done, or it should be around the first week of October, I think.
Right around the time for one of your conferences, isn't it, Eric?
Yeah, isn't that convenient?
When is that?
And look, they're at the Subscriber Summit.
Now that Subscriber Summit, that's in October. When is that?
Yeah, that's October 11th.
Now that one's for just subscribers, right? But the next one is your Metals Investors Forum, and when's that? That's
on it should be the 12th and 13th by the sounds of it. It sounds like they're going to make it 2 days.
Of November?
Of November.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the Subscriber Summit, people can go to subscribersummit.com, and they can, if they want to sign up, they can.
Well, hey, here's an even better idea. Why don't they go to Hard Rock Advisories, and if they're not signed up, which they should be, they become a subscriber.
Well, that's the other way to go. God bless you, Allan.
Hey, no problem, Eric. And that isn't just a joking comment, folks. Eric is, in my opinion, one of the best filters out there for investors that want to try to get through the noise to find the real signal. And Eric has been doing it for a long time, and I talk to a lot of people in the business, and there's a reason why I invite Eric on a regular basis. It's because I believe strongly in the research that he does, and I think that anybody who's investing in this business would be well suited, advised to be a subscriber. Where the address on that website again, Eric?
Just HRAadvisory.com, HRAadvisory.com.
And you have, do you still have those, any of those first time?
Yeah, there is. If you look in the upper right part of the page, there's give me your email for this free report. As it happens, the free report's on GMV, coincidentally. And there are links in that report to get the super cheap deal.
Perfect.
Because if you just go to the subscription page, you won't get it. You'll have to kind of go through the link that's in that report to get it.
Okay, perfect. There's a way to get everybody to go and check that out, and check out Eric's work, which I highly recommend. So, Eric, another company you talked about that has a lot of attention of investors in our last show was at Emmy. What can you tell us about Emmy these days?
I talked to Ian, different Ian, 2 or 3 days ago, Ian Perez. They have closed that financing now. It was fully oversubscribed, $7.5 million. He told me I'm expecting a news release from him like any time, which is just going to be the sort of the lifting the curtain, if you will. This is what we're going to do. He told me he does have the drill permits already. He got them a couple of weeks ago. I believe he's already signed drill contract as well. He's got the geos lined up. He's just got to start getting the news out there. I suspect, like a lot of guys, he's kind of hesitated the last couple of days, but I expect those guys to hit the ground running. I'm hoping to hear that there's 2 or 3 drills turning before the end of the month. I think there will be, because he said everything was ready to go. He said the minute this financing closes, the drill contracts go out, and like everything was negotiated already. And it's not a particularly difficult. It's called Golden Highway for a reason. There is a highway through it, so I don't think the access is a big problem. And the drillers, odds are the drillers are probably based in Timmins anyway, so they're driving from home. So none of that should be. It shouldn't take them that long to get the thing up and running. So I'm expecting a news release any day saying the drill rigs are turning, and it'll be a big program. I mean, it's obviously up to the geos what the meterage is at the end of the day, but the plan plan is for him, and it'll be over the next 4 or 5 or 6 months. Most of this $7.5 million financing was flow through that's going right into the drill program. So it'll be a big drill program.
Oh, perfect. And that's just another call coming in there, Eric. I thought I dropped you again. Didn't want to do that. I accidentally lost you earlier on the call. Okay, so ME, we'll be looking for some drilling news to start. So that's one that could be flowing news fairly regularly over the next 3-4 months kind of thing, right, Eric?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I mean, I think he told me his drill costs were quite good just because the logistics are good. I don't think his drill costs are that high, so he's looking at probably 30,000-40,000 meter program. It's a big drill program, so it'll be a lot of holes.
Okay,
He should be getting those up pretty regularly, starting next month, I guess, for the foreseeable future. I mean, there'll be a bit of a slowdown during freeze up, but if it's like most parts of that part of the country, there's probably parts of his property that are going to be easier to drill once they freeze anyway. So
yeah, exactly. So they'll be cranking out news all over the winter here. That's I think we need to start transitioning to those plays too, right, Eric? Because we want these ones with good news flow, and being where they are and with that much drilling, they should have a strong news flow. They've got a good geological story there. And looks like they've got their handle on something pretty good there, Eric.
Yeah, and they've got, they do have a pretty large resource already. My sense is, maybe he'll change his mind. My sense is Ian's not going to update the resource until after he finishes this drilling. I mean, he's basically trying to find high grade to go with the lower grade resource he already has, but he does have 4.3 million ounces already, and it's probably higher than that. There was quite a bit of drilling done after the last resource. He just didn't, in the middle of the bear market, he didn't see the point of redoing the resource. He knew nobody would care.
What was the grade on that, Eric?
It was a little bit over a gram.
Okay.
It's basically a bulk tonnage. He had a couple of areas like the Windjammer zone, as he calls it, which is sort of the northern boundary of the pit shells that this resource was in. He was getting some fairly long, better grade intercepts there. So I
outside of the pit shell, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of the better holes are outside of that. So the resource should get larger. And I think he did tell me that a fair amount of it would probably go from inferred to indicated, because that was a big part of what they were trying to do with the last couple of drill programs.
Now, Eric, is that a series of pits that they're talking about there?
There's 3 or 4 pits. There's one fairly large one, but there's 3 or 4 separate pits.
Oh, I see. Windjammer South and Windjammer West. They're all, when Windjammer Central and North are all one pit. I see. And then the South One zone is a new pit, and the 55 zone.
I imagine somebody's run the numbers internally, but the sense I had from Ian was that a bunch of it would go from inferred to indicated, and he expected the overall average grade would go up as well. And it probably gets a bit bigger. It's probably 4.5 or a little over 4.5 million ounces now.
And it's right at surface?
Basically, yeah. Wow. I mean, part of the resource is a higher grade underground resource, which is kind of the underground resource didn't look that special to me. I was more interested in, because of the large resource they've got at surface, but really for me it was him drilling in new areas, looking for high grade to try to give him 2 or 3 years of higher grade material to start with. I mean, to me that's what would really make the thing.
That's something that John Kaiser's been bringing up with me on shows too, Eric, is it's sort of let's say a more refined way of focusing your strategy and exploration, right? And it's during times like this when gold is sub 1,500, look for the gold that makes sense at sub 1,500, not for the gold that needs, that needs $2,000 an ounce gold.
Well, I know his, he had okay. They did a PEA about 3 years ago, and the numbers were okay. They weren't fantastic, but they're okay. If you reran the numbers now, he's got an advantage because it is a Canadian project. If you reran the numbers using current Canadian dollar gold prices, his PEA would actually improve quite a bit just because of the change in currency and the cheaper fuel and everything. It's a pretty big help for him because it's a Canadian-based project.
Mm-hmm.
But he just said, look, I mean, I recognize that it would be a tough go getting financing for a project of this size. It just makes more sense for me to try to find, drill gods willing 500,000 ounces or 1 million ounces of higher grade.
Eric, when I'm looking at these models and everything and where the high grade is, it's almost like, one of my fears always is that companies kind of rush into resource calculations or push too fast on the PEA and the feasibility studies. And, it looks to me like they were trying to make these pits work and everything instead of, sort of, they're cutting off a lot of their mineralization in these pits, the high grade.
Well, they were doing, and if you ask Ian Perez, he'll tell you, there's no pretense from him. Back in the day when they were doing the bulk of the drilling on this was back in, if you want to call it the Osisko era.
Mm-hmm.
And what the guys on Bay Street wanted was, give us more ounces, give us more ounces, give us more ounces. Just show us that this thing's really big. Show us you can be the next Osisko. That's what we want. So, and that's basically how they formatted their exploration and their drilling in order to get as big a resource as possible, even if it meant pushing the grade down.
And dropping off all that ounces.
Yeah, no, it was all about what can you fit in a pit and make it look like the next Osisko.
That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing in this.
And that's what he was trying to do. There's no pretense. That's what the market wanted then. Now the market's saying, don't show us ounces, show us margin. So now he's trying to go after the higher grade stuff. Plus, because they focused on this model, they really didn't spend that much time at all really drilling on the north side of the major deformation zone there, and the rocks on that side are sort of tighter volcanics where you're a lot more likely to get high grade veins.
Mm.
So that, and there are, if you look there's not a lot of holes on that side, but there are a few of them in 3 or 4 different areas where there were, multi-grams over multi-meters. And that's, those are the areas he's going after this time with the drill.
Perfect. Okay, Eric. Well, that's a good one there. Now, one other one is your PRG there, precipitate. I always say there. I have a
precipitate.
Precipitate. Eric, I'm going to push you a little bit on this one. I hope you don't get offended.
No.
But I kind of started looking at this story almost a year ago now, and they're still working on ground geophysics to tighten up these drill targets. Are these guys ultra careful, or what's the story there?
What's going on? If you go back 3 years and look at the original IP, which is still the only IP at Ginger Ridge. That was done with a specific type of IP system. It was the same system that was used by Gold Quest next door. For whatever reason that happened, that seemed to be particularly good at seeing these zones. So they used that same system at Ginger Ridge 3 years ago. That's what they used to target the original handful of holes where they got the discovery hole. The Insight, it's called Insight. It's the Insight system. That's the name of the geophysical company.
Okay.
That's all fine and good. It worked for them. It worked for Gold Quest. That was the good news. The bad news is it worked well enough for Gold Quest that they're doing an absolutely massive IP program. It's arguably the biggest IP program I've ever seen.
And there's only one company down there.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the problem is that although they've asked politely, and the two companies get along quite well, the guys at Gold Quest are saying, you can have the IP here in January or whenever we're done.
Okay.
So they're bringing in a different company to do this survey, but because the array, the way that they actually lay out the sensors is a little bit different. Just to be on the safe side, Mike wants to run some lines with this new system over Ginger Ridge, and it's not so much a matter of being ultra careful how they target it. It's more a matter of, they know that there's mineralization at Ginger Ridge. They want to run the system over that, see what that signature looks like with this different system, and then take this system to the 5 other areas
so
where they generated targets.
Now I get it.
It'll hopefully it'll help, and they are actually going to make the grid bigger. But I think the main reason they're doing it is to get a signature with this system and go, okay, this is what Ginger Ridge looks like with this IP gear. Let's
what
go
I
to the
was
other grids now.
having troubles wrapping my head around was that I didn't understand that they had Gold Quest had run it. They were trying to run it with the same company, and that's why they were having a hard time. And then to get things going faster, bringing in a new one, I now understand. It seemed like it was redundant work to me when I first read it, Eric.
Yeah, originally they were just going to use the Insight guys again like they did last time, but basically Gold Quest survey is so big that they're not going to get their hands on the Insight stuff before January, and they just went, oh, that's just too long to wait, so we'll bring in somebody else. That's a good one to keep an eye on, because I follow Gold Quest too, and one thing I would point out is that Gold Quest is, well, there's a couple of things coming from Gold Quest actually. There should be a pre-feasibility study like literally any day now. The PEA that they did on Romero was very strong. 220 million NPV and about a 35% IRR. I don't expect the numbers to literally match that. They never do. I can't think of a single case where somebody had a PEA that strong and you get the same numbers on the feasibility study. I'm assuming they'll be a little bit lower, but I think everybody realizes that should be out like literally any time. I was actually hoping to see that today, because I know they were trying to get it done before Beaver Creek, but obviously they didn't. But that should be out. But the other thing too is they are drilling. Gold Quest is drilling. One of the spots where the drill is turning right now is the extension of the Ginger Ridge trend on the other side of the property boundary.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, they've got a drill turning. They have a couple of they ran the Insight stuff on their side of the border a couple of months ago, and they've got 1 or 2 rigs in there now. There's two different chargeability anomalies that are. Both of them or either of them or something. I haven't quite figured out the geometry there.
From a strategic perspective, I'd almost would have let him run the IP over on the other side, because then you're drilling at this thing from 2 sides.
Yeah, they've got their own. They've got a big long list of targets that they want to hit, but they're starting there. So obviously they liked what they saw.
So out of all the various targets that Gold Quest has, this other side of Ginger Ridge is the first place they're starting their drilling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
And their drill program's going to go for quite a while, because they've got, I don't even know what the total is. It's 12 or 15 targets, and a lot of these targets are quite a distance from each other, so just humping those drills around is going to be, it'll probably be a 4 or 5 month drill program, I would think, to hit all of this stuff. And they really want to hit them all.
Now, Eric, did they have any seasonal or any other strategic reasons why, other than, this being a really good target, to go at this one first?
No, there's no, there is the DR has a kind of a crappy season that we're sort of in right now, actually, because it's sort of the hurricane season in the U.S. The hurricane track
comes up through there.
Pretty much goes right through there, so you've always got to kind of look over your shoulder. But I think it was. I'm not sure what the logistic advantage would have been. Ginger Ridge itself is relatively mild as far as topography goes. A lot of that country is really steep. I think they liked the idea that they had, that there was Ginger Ridge on the other side. The 2 companies share data, so they got to go through the PRG core and everything, so they had a pretty good idea what they were looking at. Plus, they did get some pretty good numbers. This trend that they're drilling right now, I think, was the highest, and think they were grab samples, but I think it was the highest gold numbers off of these IP targets that they generated. I think that was like 160 grams or something like
What's
that.
the difference in valuation between the two companies, Eric? Ballpark. I'm not going to quote you on it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure off the top of my head. PRG is about 15 or something.
That's what I got. Yeah.
And Gold Quest now is I don't know, 130 or something like that.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's a kind of a leveraged way to get some interest in there, isn't it, Eric?
Well, yeah, and I follow both and I own both, so I mean, I'm cheering for both of them, and it'll be nice for PRG if Gold Quest pulls some nice holes.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
it'll be nice to have that data in hand and know that, because it is, as far as either company can tell, what Gold Quest is drilling now is literally the extension of what Mike hit at Ginger Ridge.
Exactly.
It's
So
the
they got a
other end of the
leg
same
up.
trend.
They've got a leg up, right?
Yeah.
They're not starting. They're hitting the ground running with their exploration.
Well, that might be the. I mean, they've never come out and said it, but that might have been the simpler, more obvious reason that they started drilling there. Was they just said, well, we know there's a good hole at the other end of the same trend, so it seems like a logical place to start.
Well, Eric, if you need those simple solutions, man, I'm your guy.
Okay.
I'm going to twist your arm now for. You got any new ones for my audience to take a look at, Eric, that we haven't talked about before?
I'm trying to think of
Who's
around
something
that we
that you've got on your subscribers? They're not going to get mad at us, and maybe something that needs a new audience to look at.
There isn't. I mean, I haven't really added anything. To the journal list since GMV. To be honest, I mean, I got a few things floating around, but a lot of them are ones where I'm waiting for transactions to finish or one thing or another that just hasn't happened yet. So they're still just kind of floating around out there.
Mm-hmm. What are some? Did we talk about any of the exploration plays that have drill results pending that you and I haven't talked about and that you've sort of teed up to your subscribers before?
Well, I mean, the other one we didn't mention that they'll be drilling again fairly quickly, I think, is West Red Lake. I mean, they got a couple of good hits in the last hole of the program. That seems to be the way they do this, which, I think people looked at the set of 8 holes and weren't thrilled about the fact that only one of them had good intercepts. But I think both of us are probably more interested in this hinge zone, as you call it, where these different deformation zones come together. They haven't been able to get drill rigs where they really, really want them, because they're waiting for their partner Goldcorp to finish some drill permitting on those specific claims. But I did talk to Tom Meredith a couple of days ago, and they will be starting another drill program in a week or two. There will be a couple of holes over where that new hole was that hit whatever it was, 1.5 meters of 50 and 1.5 meters of 25, whatever. There will be a couple of holes testing that same area, although he cautioned me that the holes we really want to drill have to wait for this permitting. There will be a bunch of holes around the Rowan mine to try to add to that resource as well, so they will have news flow coming.
With that hole, you see what I think part of the challenge is when you've got a structure that goes east-west where you've got the Rowan mine, and it's moving over towards where it intersects with the Newman Todd structure. I think that they're just on the edge. They're on the alteration halo there, right beside that Newman Todd structure, which really excites me because I was part of drilling about 80 some holes into that Newman Todd structure, and every time we drilled into it, Eric, we hit gold. And I think, don't quote me on this, but almost 30% of them or more hit bonanza to high grade. So I'm pretty excited about getting into that hinge zone, because that's the other thing. Where we had drilled along that structure, we never really had a good bend in the structure where the rock was well prepared to host a good deposit.
Right.
But we hit lots of gold in it.
As you know, they've had this guy do this fancy geophysics,
Yep.
and he seems to be fairly convinced that the way that the structure is sitting there, he thinks there's a fold, and the way that he thinks the fold is sitting, really the way to get the best test on it is they gotta drill from the southeast side, which basically means they've got to be on these other claims. There's no way to set the drill up the way they want and not be on these other claims that they have to permit.
That's for that target. They can keep stepping over from where they were those 8 holes to get at the hinge zone.
Yeah, although their feeling is that their best target is sitting in a spot where they're going to have to collar the holes on these.
I know.
Claims.
Yeah, on that anomaly that guy's talking about. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. There's a lot that whole structure, that whole area there. It's got, every structure has gold in it, so you just got to try to figure out where it can accumulate. So the hinge is one area. That chap's anomaly is. I've always thought that the Newman Todd blew out as it got to the north, and spreads out to the direction he's talking about, to the east a little bit more. But we'll see with the drill holes there, hopefully fairly soon.
Yeah, I mean they're saying they're going to be drilling again before the month is out. So, and I think shareholders would probably be happy to just hear that much. But I'm expecting a news release, again any day, saying that the drilling started again. So,
good deal.
And he told me that he does have a bunch of shareholders there. I think you and I are more focused on this exploration stuff, but
yeah, and
he does have shareholders that are focused on the resource, and they want to hear that he's drilling to try to increase the resource, which is, I think, what most of this program is going to be, just to keep those guys happy.
Yeah, well, there's also, we brought a pretty big audience to the table, and I think our audiences are pretty clear about what we're looking for, Eric. I've done a lot of drilling in that area. Now I'm interested in finding something significant.
Yeah.
I drilled 90 holes. I was with the company that drilled 90 holes on that Newman Todd structure. Now I want to hit it out of the park.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping these guys do.
From your mouth to God's ears, Eric. Anything else? So, I think that's a good one to sort of wrap things up. We've been at it a good time here, Eric. I really appreciate your time. Any closing comments?
Well, I'll add one other company, because you mentioned it to me earlier that you were that you were going to ask about the San Marco one. I'll give you a bit of color on that. I mean,
okay, hold on. SMN is their symbol. Sorry.
Yeah.
And
they've got a couple of things going on. One is that they have this joint venture is really the wrong word. It's more like a partnership with a company. It's a private company, a local one called Globetrotters Exploration. Globetrotters has mainly focused in Peru up to now. I know the guy behind it, and I've seen some of the stuff he's done. I'm not a shareholder in the private company, but I know a bunch of guys who are. What his specialty is going in, taking a whole bunch of different sets of remote sensing data, like the satellite stuff, and Aster, all those sort of things. He's got his own way of filtering this, and what the filtering technique does is highlight hydrothermal alteration. He's used this in Peru. I know of one project at least that was staked by Globetrotters. I don't know what it's public, so I'm not going to say what's optioned to, but it's optioned to a big company. Mm-hmm. That big company is drilling the crap out of it right now. It's a porphyry discovery, and that came purely out of this targeting system he uses.
And all these projects I'm seeing, La Coridad, Aqua Zarca, La Pitahaya, those were all staked based on his method?
Some of them were. There's two things in San Marco. One is stuff that they've already got 100%. And I think you'll see a couple of those brought forward to drill stage in the next month or two. The other stuff, there was a news release today actually on 3 new projects that were staked coming out of this Globetrotters partnership. And basically the way the partnership works is Globetrotters, I think they got 1 million shares or whatever it was, but they've agreed to basically take all of Sonora, all of the remote sensing stuff for the whole state, run it all through their filtering. They've generated, I know it's like some ridiculously large number, like 100 or 150 targets. San Marcos side of it is to actually send guys in on the ground, take a quick look. If something looks like it looks really interesting and it's open, they'll just stake it. If something looks really interesting and somebody already owns it, then maybe they'll negotiate with the owner. Because a lot of these, my expectation is that they're going to generate a lot of new targets that haven't seen much work. And one of the ones, I talked to Bob Willis this morning, and one of the ones that was in the news release today is a good example. It sounds like a very large hydrothermal system. Sounds like it's probably the top of a porphyry. They're on the same major structure and 20 kilometers east of La Caridad, which is a 1.5 billion ton porphyry mine. And, Bob said, as far as we can tell, there's really never been any work here. And it's one of the, it sort of goes back to this thesis that I've always had, which is there's this school of thought and it's particularly, the proponents of it tend to be geologists, interestingly, including my buddy Brent, who sort of have this theory that, there's nothing new under the sun, if you will. Like, you've got to go to these horrible places to find stuff. But I hark back to this sort of situation or other situations like Northern Shields, and that there's another one, by the way, that is drilling right now.
NRN, right? That one?
Yeah, okay. Where there's something that, as far as they can tell, they've got something that looks very much like a new layered ultramafic system. They expected, when they went through the files, to find that a bunch of other people had been there and sampled it and stuff, but nobody has. And that's in Quebec. Like, I personally think there's plenty of outcrops that haven't been walked on and rocks that haven't been kicked over. I still think there's lots
stuff
of
under cover, and I agree, yeah. Eric. Those big old cratons are pretty darn large, and I don't think you can. I don't think we've even scratched this. That's all we've done is scratch the surface, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, the world's a big place.
Exactly.
You don't need to be. All you have to do is walk down the wrong line or walk on the wrong side of the tree, and you don't find one of these.
Or have the wrong guy looking at your data, or or a project doesn't have a champion. Every project needs a champion. And a technical like a geologist champion, right? And if they get the wrong champion, things get screwed up. And yeah, I'm in the camp with you, and John Kaiser's in the same camp, because he's looking for these new angles, new ways of looking at projects, new surveys to run, new angles on known areas. And I'm with you completely, Eric. Let's face it. It's without being rude to those kind of guys. We haven't been finding enough deposits, fellas.
Yeah,
we've been spending a lot of money, and the supply chain is getting weaker and weaker.
Yeah, guys like Brent will agree with you 100%. A big part of Brent's thesis is, and it has been for years, that people underestimate how weak the supply chain is. Like, it's only a matter of time before you see metal prices move, particularly on the precious metal side, because we're on the wrong side of the supply curve right now. It's just topping out. There probably won't be any supply growth for several years now,
right?
Because the pipeline's so weak, and that's good if you're looking for these things.
Exactly, and especially, Eric, if you've got a new angle. Like, look at that, one of my sponsors, Nevada Gold Exploration. They got a whole new angle there that they're looking undercover, which is about half of the prospective rock in the state that's not been looked at. They're out there looking where nobody else is looking, and if they can figure out how to look through that cover and look through it methodically to find stuff, they could be off to the races. That's the kind of thing that really gets me interested, especially because a lot of this stuff makes a lot of sense to me, Eric, because I'm so experienced in diamond exploration. using those crumbs of information to lead you back to the source.
Yeah.
These new methods, they make a lot of sense to me. That groundwater method to see through the cover in Nevada, that makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, I know John's a big fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
He's been pounding the table with that one.
Well, I sure like the sounds of this San Marco you're talking about here, Eric. That thing only has like a 10 million market value.
Well, you've got a good combination of a guy that seems to have, just based on what I know he's done in Peru, he's very good at targeting, but he's the first one that would tell you, like, the methodology I use is going to give you a whole bunch of targets. That only gets you part of the way there. Some guy still has to strap on the hiking boots and grab the hammer and go out and see. Because he said it's not like there's never false positives or are. So he said this only works if you've got good guys in the field, and that's why he hooked up with San Marco. I mean, that's what San Marco is providing is they're sending crews out to look at these anomalies and stuff that looks like might have some legs. They're staking it. I mean, they've staked 3 projects, but I think the way this is going to work, I think, is you'll see, and they probably won't even name all of them. You'll probably see, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 projects get staked by these guys in the next few months. Granted, you and I both know how this stuff works right at the grassroots end. They'll drop kick half of them or 3/4 of them, which is fine. That's what you want. You don't want to waste time and energy on ones that don't look good. But at the end of the day, I think these guys will have a set of pretty strong projects. And because they seem to be finding, because Richard seems to have been able to find them, bona fide hydrothermal systems that surface in areas that in some cases were never staked before. To me, that always opens up the potential that some guy's just plain going to trip over something. He'll get off the truck in the right place and walk up the arroyo and go, whoa, what's that?
There it is.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to definitely do a lot of homework on that one, Eric. That one sounds right up my alley. Part of the reason it's right up my alley, Eric, is I believe we're in the start of a renaissance for exploration that we haven't really seen for maybe a few decades. And it's looking at things with different angles, getting good people out on the ground kind of thing that now I see that they're actually going to get the patience of the investors to be able to do this work. And I haven't seen that in a real long time, Eric.
Well, and I know because I'm a shareholder, I know who some of the bigger shareholders in that particular deal are, and they're by and large they're brokers who you know them, but they are the kind of guys that are willing to be patient about this stuff. And well, in fact, some of the bigger shareholders of San Marco are guys that are some of the bigger shareholders of Globetrotters. It's not an accident those two companies get together. And Globetrotters has been operating privately for 4 or 5 years. Doesn't seem to have any intention of going public. And the brokers that backed it seem to be fine with that. I mean, they're pretty patient guys. And they understand this stuff takes time. So, I mean, it's the kind of guys you want to have as shareholders.
For sure. I like that one, Eric. I'm going to do some homework on that one. Thanks. I'm going to wrap things up now. So, again, Eric, thanks a lot for your time and all these good insights. One of the great things I like is you bring me things that open my eyes up, and I got to do a little bit of homework on them there, Eric.
Yeah, I think you'll quite like, your phone San Marco. I mean, Bob Willis and I are friends. He's a really good guy. He's got a pretty good track record. You'll see when you look at his background, and I think you'd be pretty interested sitting down, which I'm sure they can organize with Richard Osman, who's the guy behind Globetrotters. He's a pretty interesting guy, and his this stuff he does seems to work. I mean, it certainly worked in Peru.
I'm going to do that homework. I will get a hold of that. So that's the guy I should talk to, Bob Willis?
Bob Willis is the CEO of San Marco, but I mean, he'd put you on to Richard Osman as well, who's the guy. He's the CEO of Globetrotters, but that's the guy who's doing all of the remote sensing, filtering, and handing them the target list, and then they go run around on the ground and ground proof them.
Perfect. I'll get a hold of Bob.
Okay.
On that note, Eric, I'm going to wrap things up here. You can you don't have to listen through this part if you don't want. Again, thanks a lot, Eric. Have a great day.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Allan.
On that note, I'm going to wrap things up, folks, and say, first of all, before making any investment decisions, it's important for you to do your homework and speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. I want to thank my sponsors. My work is made possible through my sponsors. I mentioned them earlier. They include Nevada Exploration. NGE is their symbol. NevadaExploration.com is their website. Premier Gold Mines, PG, on the Toronto Exchange. PremierGoldMines.com is their website. Sirius Resources, SOI is their symbol. SIRIOS.com is their website. Tarku Resources, TKU on the Venture Exchange. TarkuResources.com is TARKU Resources.com. Tudor Gold is TUDOR-GOLD.com. Their symbol's TUD. They are my newest sponsor. Go check them out and do some homework on them. Really nice company there. West Red Lake Gold Mines, RLG on the Canadian Securities Exchange. Website westredlakegold.com. And Wolf Den Resources, WLF on the Venture Exchange. wolfdenresources.com is their website. I also want to thank the viewers, for joining us. You're what makes this show worth doing, and having great guests like Eric on to discuss their what they see in the market and the companies that they're following. And I got to say, I really enjoy this opportunity because Eric is an excellent stock picker, and someone who I have a lot of time for. So everybody have a great day. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you soon.